My name's Ashley, and I was born with a complete bilateral cleft lip and palate. The impact cleft has had on my life as an adult for me has been much less physical and much more emotional. In my late 20s, I discovered the toll that early medical intervention and scrutinization of my physical appearance had on me. That manifested in a lot of different ways throughout my life: anxiety, panic attacks, and most recently in the form of night terrors. And it wasn't until adulthood that I found that all of these seemingly unconnected things were likely related to early medical trauma. But the good news is that over the last several years, I have spent time examining each of these challenges, and I have been on the road to healing myself, and I have found so much bravery and resilience inside of myself along the way.
Hello, my name is Bodo. I was born in the early 70s with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. I underwent approximately 14 surgeries through childhood and early young adulthood. I think my biggest challenge living with a cleft lip and palate was probably as a young person dealing with the bullying, since back in the 80s that wasn't really an issue. It wasn't something that people were so conscious of, and it was prevalent and very cruel. I do remember that having a pretty big impact on my development as a young man. And of course, the superficial judgments based on physical appearance that sort of went hand in hand with that.
Hi, my name is Luci, Capo, and I'd like to spend a few minutes talking to you about my story with having a restored severe bilateral cleft lip and palate. Having this issue has really made a difference in my life. Initially, it was very hard to accept because my family struggled with it when I was born. However, over the years, I've learned to accept myself, and it's been a challenge, but I've gotten through it. And having the cleft lip and palate has actually made me a stronger, more resilient person. I'm more patient, I'm more loving, I'm more caring. It made me a better healthcare provider, and it also had me realize that I have imperfect beauty. And another thing that I think about is that, and that I've learned over the years, is that I just happen to be a person who has a cleft lip and palate restored. So the cleft lip and palate doesn't define who I am as an individual.
Hi, I'm Iva Ballou, and I was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. Growing up with the cleft taught me two things. One, resiliency, and two, advocacy. Growing up with the cleft, I struggled, whether it be internally, just having questions of why me, why was I born with the cleft, or externally, growing up, it was challenging to be bullied for something that I had no control over. And thankfully, I was born into an amazing family with amazing parents who taught me that everyone is born with something that makes them different. And for me, my cleft made me different. But I was never able to use that difference as a crutch. They always taught me that I had a cleft, but my cleft did not have me. And to never allow it to limit me or to stop me from going into places and holding my head up high. But if it should, because that's how life is sometimes, whether it be because of my cleft or any other outside factor, to be able to advocate for myself and to use my voice. Having those two skills made me stronger.
My biggest challenge living with a cleft has been the judgmental looks I get, especially when I speak. Sometimes it makes me afraid to speak up in front of a group of people because I have the fear that I'm being judged based on the sound of my voice rather than what I'm actually saying. Having a cleft has taught me how to be strong and push through challenges. To me, cleft is just something that needs to be corrected in order to function well.
One of my biggest challenges was being sure to learn how to speak and sing clearly and pronunciate when speaking. I was told, my parents were told rather, that I would need speech therapy for most of my life. I never did get the speech therapy, and yet I've managed to be a successful trial attorney, and I perform vocal and guitar music publicly. So, I would say that certainly shouldn't hold anyone back, but it is something to consider and something that you have to deal with.
What I think bothered me is people not accepting me, and then I wasn't accepting myself. And so as a woman, it was a little bit of a struggle. So, but now that I know how great I've done, I'm an advocate for myself and others. And so I want the general public to know that we are very bright and intelligent people, and we have needs for our care from the time we're born until the end of our lives, whether it be extensive surgeries, dental work, and maintenance of what we have.
The acceptance of my cleft has kind of ebbed and flowed both throughout my life, but also even sometimes day to day. So most often who I present to the world is one who is confident and totally comfortable in her skin. But the truth is that sometimes when I'm alone, I doubt myself. And I do think that's likely true of anyone. But what did end up helping me the most in my own self-acceptance journey was meeting other cleft-affected people. I saw such beauty in every single one of them. So I realized that if I saw that in them, that I needed to recognize that strength and beauty are also inside me. And every day isn't perfect, but most days I feel pretty good about myself. So I would call that a win.
In my adult life, having a cleft does not impact much in my day-to-day. When I do meet a younger person with a cleft, I like to be a source of inspiration for them to show cleft-affected people can really achieve their goals and lead normal lives. I accepted my cleft and use it in a positive way to have the ability to empathize with patients who are affected by their smiles. I'm a prosthodontist, meaning I fix people's teeth. So when I'm able to relate to these people, it's a great feeling for both parties.
Over the years, I've learned to accept myself and the things that I've done, during the times of all the surgeries, extensive dental work. I've had speech therapy. I've had psychotherapy to get me through all this because I did experience, as most of us, the bullying and treated like I didn't have intelligence, that it made me even stronger. So when I went to school, I became a professional RN, and I'm also an advanced practice nurse or a nurse practitioner. And going to school really helped to raise my self-esteem.
Having a cleft palate and lip has taught me, I think, to see people more for who they are as opposed to how they appear, and to have patience with people who have, limited understanding and who don't have that same perspective. Also, it's taught me to work harder for things that I want to achieve in my life, and also to accept and welcome setbacks and challenges throughout life, and to view them as a way to grow and develop, I think, because, of course, there were challenges associated with the facial difference and the cleft, both not only from an acceptance standpoint, but from a physiological standpoint in terms of, as I said, speaking clearly, pronunciation, even from an early age being able to eat, something that simple. So it certainly had its disadvantages, but it's something that can be overcome.
Having a cleft has taught me empathy and bravery and resilience. It has taught me that I'm stronger physically and emotionally than I think I ever would have known otherwise.
Because of my cleft, I'm able to relate to patients and help them in ways not many other providers can.
What I want people to understand about cleft is that it's not just a simple one and done surgery. It's not purely cosmetic. Cleft is much more involved and can affect how we speak or hear. It can affect how we eat or drink. But there are also emotional repercussions that go along with living life as a person with a facial difference, and the impact of having such intense medical intervention at such a young age can have lasting effects. But I also want people to know that although we might look different, we're just like everyone else in so many ways and just as worthy of love and respect.
I do writing. I actually wrote a memoir. I write poetry. I also enjoy dance and yoga. Being in nature, all those activities really help to keep me going, and so it's very rewarding for me to keep going and never stop.
That is what I want people to understand when they think about my cleft or they see my cleft. I want them to understand that my cleft, actually, I can't believe I'm about to say this, it made me a better person because it made me determined and strong, cleft strong. And there's so much joy in that. And that is what I want you to see. Not the surgeries, not the scar, not any of that. Just see the cleft joy and the cleft strong.